It's that crucial. Tell me about the song "Punk's Not Dead." It's all just hype, or it's all just hype. But that I need to say it like that because that's to me it was an anthem growing up within the hardcore scene. So tell me about that song because I feel like it defined the generation that I came out of.
Punk's Not Dead. It's all just hype. That when Sheen joined the band, that was an early song. He brought that. I guess he had the music created already.
Yeah,
and
when he came with us, he had brought in about 4 or 5 songs or songs ideas, and that was one of them.
But it was because of our name. This is before we had the hype name. But Sharon Donovan, I believe his girlfriend at the time, actually wrote the lyrics to that.
That's what I remember. Yeah.
So,
and do you know what the song was about? Because it felt like to me. It was sort of the answer to the punk scene.
It was basically just saying that the 70s punk scene never died. We're still here. That's basically all it was.
So can I ask you a follow up to this because I feel like a lot of hardcore kids felt sort of I don't know what's the right word for it is maybe just like ignored by that punk scene, right? In a way that kind of was hurtful.
Yes and no. I mean, in a sense, Toronto, we in the 80s we recreated a new type of punk. I mean,
I think that's when it was changing a bit.
Yeah,
right, because of the old
punk wasn't being played anymore.
I had never seen any of the older bands.
No,
but the new style was just as fast as you could possibly play, and as aggressive.
And you identified as punk, right?
Oh yeah,
yeah,
or hardcore.
Hardcore, yeah.
I identified as hardcore, not punk.
Yeah.
So there was a bit of a distinction, but it was still part of the same punk umbrella, if I could, because we still felt like it was still part of the family tree, right?
Yeah, we were out there to offend, out to piss people off, and to.
Well, I think maybe at the beginning was Sheen with his pink mohawk, and
it was exactly what we needed.
Yeah.
To not conform to suburbia.
Yeah.
Introduce yourselves and tell us what you did in hype. So maybe Gerry, could you start?
Okay, my name is Gerry LaBeouf. I play bass. I guess
from
co-founder of the idea of hype with Brian. We created the idea of a band long before we even bought instruments.
Chris, introduce.
That's not an unusual story, actually. Go ahead, Chris. Tell me.
My name's Chris Laverton, drums.
For some of the time. Brian Bishop, vocals.
And who's missing from this mix? Who else was in the original lineup?
The original lineup. This is the original lineup with Sheen.
And Sheen played guitar?
Sheen played guitar.
So you were originally a 4-piece, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when did hype form? Roughly what period?
I'm going to say 1982.
Oh, that early.
Yeah, Gerry and I would be playing in the basement. I used to play drums, and Gerry would play lead bass.
Big lead bass.
Distorted bass, and then I would sing on drums as well. So
it turned out pretty much like a Deja Voodoo sound. If you remember that.
Yeah, right.
Which was their sound.
They were
was
two-piece the same way.
Two-piece, they sound like pea soup.
Pea shit. No. Yeah, so that's how we started. Do you want me to continue onward?
Yeah, please. Yeah, because I want to find out how Chris comes to join and how Sheen comes to join.
Okay, well, Gerry and I, we played in the basement for a long time, and Don would come over because he had no friends, I believe.
Actually, we should start it with Neil. It was, in the beginning, it was Brian, me, and Neil, our sound man.
Okay.
Neil bought drums, I bought a bass guitar, and Brian bought a guitar.
I bought a guitar, yeah.
And we were punk rock right from there, but suddenly Neil could not play drums whatsoever. Couldn't hold a beat.
No, it was horrible.
Yeah. So we started to sneak together, just Brian and I, and play without him.
Yeah, just drums and bass and vocals, and we would bash out some punk rock, some of our own songs.
Yeah, that's where
I Want to Be Me.
I Want to Be Me was created then.
Did that become I Want to Be Neil?
Yes.
I Want to Be Neil.
Yeah, it was originally I Want to Be Me, but we just changed it to Neil just to annoy him.
Yeah, so that was punk. That was punky rock. And Don used to come over and, because I don't know if he had friends or not,
Yeah.
But he would just sit
We
and
were
listen
impressed.
to us and listen to us and suggest.
But how many
we get
punks
it.
were there in Oakville? I mean, like, it was probably something to do. Like, I'm thinking
Well,
Don
at
will
that-
probably hang out because there was something to do.
At that time, we weren't punks. We didn't identify as punks. We were just,
Like, just
We were
jamming
just
in
into
bed.
we were into the music.
yeah,
Like some of the early punk rock we were into, but
but moved out of it quickly.
moved out of it quickly because Don had a job at a gas station or whatnot. And with his paychecks, he would buy hardcore albums, punk albums. And from that, we go over to Don's place and he would be, playing these hardcore records. Shit I've never heard of before.
Yeah, the
And-
compilations were the best. You just find all the best bands on those.
Yeah, sure. There would be lots on them.
Yeah.
And that's where we were mostly introduced to hardcore through all the compilations and things like Channel 3. And it's like, what is this stuff? That just rocks
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
Yeah, right.
And we liked it. And we
Or
started
some
emulating
Crass,
it.
throw
Yeah.
some Crass in
Crass,
there.
Big
I
Hands.
kind of like them
Yeah.
artistically wise.
We liked
Big
everything that
Hands.
was absolutely weird. I mean, we were coming from weird experiences too. I mean, Brian's had a big Bowie influence
Yeah.
with all his strangeness. So that added to us. We've always been eccentrically weird, though.
Yeah. And so
But yeah,
How did Chris come to join?
Chris was actually going to our high
We went
school.
to high school together.
And Neil, our sound man, said, hey,
Chris is a drummer?
I know this guy that plays drums. I had passed him in the halls before and thought,
Well, and Mike, your cousin Mike.
oh, Gershner, yeah.
That's how I think he introduced me to you. And in 1982, you were walking around with that U.S. Marine tunic and
Oh,
the
yeah.
Nazi punks fuck off armband.
Did I wear that? Good
Yeah,
Lord.
for about 2 hours.
Yeah,
And
right.
then you were taken down to the principal's office. Told to remove it.
And Don rescued us.
Did he really?
Well, Don would come to the school. He wasn't allowed. He was already out of school, but he'd come into the school
Leather
in his
jacket.
leather studs, Christmas trees and whatnot. And the principals would just say, "What the hell is this?" And
There's
so
a
would
biker.
everyone else. He'd be the only guy walking through there in leather and big black boots.
everyone would back away from it. He just
Yeah.
loved it.
Was he like the parental figure?
It was a working class Portuguese Italian school. We kind of stuck out like a sore thumb.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, that's true. But then, so we got together with Chris, and
We had to beg him.
we had to beg him. There was a drum. There was a
Chris
drum.
is shaking his head no.
I didn't want anything to do with it. Jerry came to my
Oh, really?
house every night.
Oh, so it's true.
Come on, we're going to
Get in the
practice.
car.
Get in the car. We're going.
Yeah.
And finally, I relented.
Did you like the music initially? Thanks. Did you like the music initially? We're back on.
Yeah, it was Jerry
you
and
were
Brian.
a Beatle guy, right?
I was.
He was in the Beatles.
A Beatle guy.
And
And Jerry introduced me to Teenage Head and
Right.
Forgotten
Demix.
Rebels, Demix,
Demic's great.
Temple Tutor we listened to.
Temple
a lot.
Tutor.
Oh, Temple Tutor, yeah.
Yeah.
I love them.
And we go out drinking and that playing in the back of the seat.
Yeah.
We'll
And
talk about that.
yeah, a lot of that attitude started in the car, just driving around aimlessly, smoking dope and playing drumsticks on the back of my seat.
I did not inhale.
So, so I guess we're getting into like how you got into punk. So tell me a bit more about how you maybe got into punk. It sounds like Don was one of the people that sort of turned you onto some music and stuff. But was there other things that you saw? Got
Sheen,
into?
when Sheen came to the band, he brought a lot of influences that we weren't privy to at that time.
Was he also from Oakville?
No,
He was
in
from
the
Sault Ste. Marie.
Oh,
Sault Ste. Marie. He lived in St. Catharines, but he was originally from Sault Ste. Marie, but he was going to Waterloo University, I think, at the time.
so he's older.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was older. He was an older guy, and
He had played with Direct Action in their early years.
Oh, is that right?
before they were Direct Action.
Yeah, they were, what was the name of that band?
Oh, I can't remember.
The
Decimation.
The Unknowns.
Yeah.
Decimation. Wasn't it Decimation?
They became, I think, Decimation.
After.
Yeah,
Or not
I think it was the
Decimation.
Unknowns, yeah.
The Unknowns.
but the Unknowns were a band from St. Catharines.
St. Catharines, yeah.
So he was in the Unknowns
Well, he played around with them for a little bit,
Yeah.
and then
Not totally
before they
serious.
broke up
yeah,
And
before
then-
they broke up.
and moved to Toronto.
Yep, and Donna had said, "Hey, frig, now you guys are a three-piece. we need a guitar player. We had a guy playing guitar, Ron Davies, once in a while.
It was
But
pretty sketchy, and you never know where he was going to show up.
right, so Don said, "Hey, I'm going to put up a punk guitarist wanted in."
Record peddler.
No,
Records on
Record
Wheels.
Peddler.
Records on Wheels
No.
on First Street.
No, it was that.
No, that's where he saw the
Peddler
poster.
on Queen Street, when it was on Queen Street.
No, it was the one in Oakville on Kerr Street.
Yeah,
Oh,
Records on
it was
Wheels.
that.
Rec-
It was
Records
that
on Wheels.
Army surplus
No,
store.
it was
Yes.
way before that.
No,
Yeah.
it was,
No, remember the guy who ran the Army surplus?
World War II.
Yeah, World War II. It was in there. He hung it there, and that's where Sheen saw it because he was looking for a camo shirt or something like that.
Ah.
So how would he have been in Oakville if he was going to Waterloo?
his girlfriend lived in
is-
Oakville.
His girlfriend lived in
this
Oakville.
is-
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Okay.
he saw that and he called and we said,
Oh my God.
"Hey, let's meet at the Harveys, where all of us punk rockers would meet at the Harveys. Negative Gain
Yeah, that's what.
would go there.
Yeah, Grant told us that about this legendary Harvey's,
Yeah.
which became your
Yeah,
meeting
yeah.
spot.
Yeah, yeah. So
I'd love to see Grant. How's he doing?
We only spoke over the phone. I
Oh,
think he's
no.
out in Edmonton or somewhere. He's out in Alberta. Yeah,
Oh, for God's sake.
he's doing good.
Is he?
Yeah.
and so anyway, Sheen answered and we met up, or we just said, "Hey, okay, well Sunday we'll, do you want to come over?" And you didn't show up for some reason. So I had to get on drums, and I had said, "Sorry, Sheen,
This is not what we normally sound.
I can keep a beat, but I'm not a drummer. So, but we played anyways, and he
starts playing like Black Flag stuff and
he
Bad
would
Brain
play
stuff.
the
Dead
sides of
Kennedys.
albums like all the way through, just him, and we just sit there and just watch him play the entire LP. He's like,
Note for note.
yeah, note for
Wow.
note.
Dead Kennedys.
That's
He
pretty
knew
amazing.
everything. Yeah. He was incredible.
So,
Killing Joke was another one of his faves that he played a lot. So
Oh.
you'd never would have. Well, you don't always pick it out in his style when it's blended in with everything
Sure.
else, but he was very much a Killing Joke
Fan.
chugging style.
Yeah, yeah.
Just love that sound.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, they had.
and,
Really,
and Sheen brought a lot of influence too
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
His
Definitely.
tape collection, shit I've never heard of.
Yeah, he introduced me to a lot of music that I never would have. Like, he was into a lot of weird music.
Yeah.
And he was finding it in Sault Ste. Marie record shops, which blew us away.
Oh,
It
really?
was hard enough to find in Oakville, never mind in
yeah,
Sault Ste.
sure.
Marie.
That seems really bizarre.
It was bizarre.
Yeah,
Yeah.
unusual for sure. Well, so let me ask you, what was there an idea behind the band when you first got started, aside from just like trying to make a noise? That like maybe as Sheen starts joining, do you start kind of figuring out what you want to sound like, or was it just however you could play?
Well, like Gerry said, Sheen came with 5 songs
Yeah,
or so,
roughly.
and so we would learn them.
And they were all fast songs, so that brought our speed up. And for me, also, I was just still learning how to play bass
Sure.
guitar.
Yeah.
So I was constantly watching him play, and I basically learned how to play my guitar from playing along with him and
yeah.
trying to keep up with him. He was a master at guitar. He picked it up when he was like 11 or something.
It certainly was
crazy.
one of the features of Hype when I first
Yeah.
saw you, was that speed, like that fast chugging guitar that he could play, right?
That was our thing. We always said
It's very
wanna-
fast picking. Like it was like
we want to play every song
Yeah.
as fast as we possibly can without
tight.
losing the integrity of the song.
yeah.
So we'd
cleanly.
always be picking it up faster and faster, but without getting to the point where it falls apart.
Do you feel that sort of is a bit of the definition of hardcore, though? It was like when people
For
talk about
some.
hardcore, they certainly talk about how the speed got picked up. Speed is one of the things that defines hardcore in some
Yeah.
ways, right?
Yeah.
Well, there's hardcore, and then there's speedcore, and then it sort of then it goes halfway into metalcore, and there's such a big gray
But those
area.
came
Sure.
later, though, didn't
Yeah.
they?
Yeah.
They certainly did in
speedcore.
terms of trying to define these sounds. But
Yeah.
I want to read you a description that's on the Canoe website, if I could. So
Okay.
they describe you as a speedcore band, which I think had something to do with Sheen's guitar sound. And I also wondered if it had something to do with like Negative Gain and you both coming from Oakville, because they also had a speed element to them. So you were mentioning speedcore, and I'm thinking speedcore, like the definition is out there, but like I wouldn't have defined you as a speedcore
But
band.
No.
For speedcore, though, I mean that for us that sort of took effect with
Well, I
our
was
sales
identified
in Germany because they just love the really fast speedcore type of.
I was identifying
We're
speedcore with
hardcore.
more metal, right?
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And I felt
No.
like speedcore wasn't hardcore, so
No.
That's right, me too.
I always
It was
felt
on
like
the
it was
verge, yeah.
a caricaturization
that's-
of that.
Yeah, we are hardcore, not speedcore.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, was listening to I want to ask you about some other influences. I was listening to the song "Violent Nature," and I noticed a resemblance to Brian Taylor's delivery in the vocals. And then I never noticed this before until like more recently when I was listening to it in hindsight years later. And then I also noticed that there was a bass intro in "You Slay Me" that has sort of a Youth 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 sound. And I wondered if Youth 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 was an influence on Hype. Had you gotten to see them at all?
No,
I didn't get to see them, but I love their
record.
And
Yeah.
Brian, I liked him, and yep. Were they an influence? Those guys were fast. Those guys were fast
And clean.
fast
and
and
tight,
clean.
and that was always
And powerful. And that's one thing that
And-
we
Yeah,
were
yeah,
always
absolutely
trying
they
to
were.
achieve. We were trying to achieve power, but we never felt like we got it. We were always envious of Direct Action for their. They were able
Intensity.
to. Yeah, their show always had the intensity of what we called the wall of
It
sound.
was the black guitars and black clothes.
Yes, and
That's
black
what
hair.
We shoulda, yeah. We had white guitars, right?
Okay, so let me ask you about. I was listening to. I wonder if you could tell us about aggressive rock, and in terms of its development on the scene. Did you ever listen to Arg Rock, the radio show?
So,
Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
It's the show that Brian used to do on CKLN.
Oh yes, yeah.
is that the one that we used to drive into the
No, that
the
was
car
Maximum
wash?
Rock and Roll.
Maximum Rock and Roll. But
Yes, I remember.
But they were
Brian's-
paired together, right? So aggressive rock, and maximum rock and roll were two, like on that in the schedule.
One
they were
after the
one
other.
after the other. So you would
Okay.
hear like 2 hours or 4 hours of.
So then we did. We used to drive in Oakville. We used to drive to that car wash, and we pull in because we could get the reception because it was a big metal building.
Yeah. It's like
And,
a parabolic disc.
Gerry would be doing drugs.
I didn't inhale.
No, and so we would listen to that. So we would hear, he would expose us to a lot of, hardcore from across the land and whatnot. Sorry about that.
Yeah, so I wondered. I wondered if you could talk a bit about the role that Brian Taylor plays on the Toronto scene, because I feel like it's a pretty big one, and I don't think he necessarily gets the credit he deserves. I mean, people talk about him greatly, but like we don't really. I think we take it for granted a bit.
We kind of wanted him to do the Burned album, but I think maybe at that time, maybe he
Is this
was
recording? The recording part.
We'll
of it?
just produce it.
Yeah. Okay.
Just to get the sound. We kind of wanted him to do it, but frick, why we didn't? Who knows? But his influence, for sure, yeah, he was a pillar for sure. In the Peddler, seeing him in the Peddler, and
He was an influence as
Brian
a model,
Rubbish.
because he was a
He was a cool guy.
yeah, he was a decent person. He was always helping people. So as a model, that's
Yeah.
we
Yeah,
looked up to
absolutely.
that.
Yeah.
We tended to emulate that kind of stuff, I suppose.
Well, we probably also look for these kind of like reference points in our own, like, because it was really a developing scene, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Let me ask you. I wanted to ask you about the song "Time and Cash" briefly. There's this wicked little reggae break in it, and I wondered.
Yeah.
That was
I wondered if
unfortunate.
the young. Well, no, I thought it wasn't actually. It reminds me of the Subhumans from the UK, which were great at that sound. But I wondered, like, because the Young Lions were known for that, and I'm looking for Toronto influences. I'm looking to see if there's Toronto influences from the earlier scene, because I feel like you guys were from the next generation that comes after Young Lions and Youth. So you're the second wave of the hardcore scene, if I could say it that way.
Yeah, that's a good
Does
way
that
to put it.
Is that way? So.
Microphone.
But like, would you have listened to their demos and stuff, and like, would they have been an influence? I'm wondering if the Young Lions were an influence.
I would say no.
Not Young Lions, but Youth, definitely.
Okay.
And Direct Action.
Yeah. Okay.
But the reggae part in that song, I think that was spawned from a Bad Brains influence.
Yeah.
Well, we
And
back
we
in
wrote
the day,
that.
we used to listen to a lot of reggae.
Yeah, but we also like to, in a lot of the stuff we never recorded, we like to experiment with stopping one rhythm and starting something completely different. One that we worked on hardest would be pseudopunk. Working in triplets into there. That at high speed, I mean, we could do it at a reasonable speed, but we kept pushing ourselves to go faster and faster. And we spent hours.
But I always think that reggae spot that we put in there, it didn't really
No, I always hated
flow
it too.
that well.
Yeah,
And I have to blame Sheen because Sheen was very
yeah, he was too choppy.
he's choppy, and on beat, off beat, but that reggae flow
Didn't
didn't really
It would have been better suited for John's guitar style.
absolute.
He had the more melodic and flowy style.
Yeah.
Which was the best
which was
part
later,
about
right?
having the two of them together because they didn't compete against each other.
Yeah.
Right, they played differently.
Yeah.
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 Okay, well, I'm glad you brought up pseudopunk because I feel like pseudopunk, sort of like Imposers and that whole thing, was also a running theme at the time in that wave of hardcore.
Didn't Don
Chris
write that?
Laverton wrote that.
Yeah, that's
Oh.
right.
That was,
Because
Don
we,
wrote it?
we
that was
were-
this thing with the band. Everybody wrote, everybody did lyrics, everybody played guitar, everybody played drums.
And then in the end, everybody had their part in how we all pieced it together and what we didn't use
Right.
and what we did use.
Yeah. But that was your lyrics.
That's
Pseudo.
right, it was. I wrote that because everyone I worked with said, "You can't be a punk, you're from Oakville." And of course, everyone in Oakville was rich.
That's
Well,
so
we weren't rich.
Yeah,
you
so
know?
that's what I wanted to ask you about, because I feel like that, because if people from Oakville at the time, I remember at the time Oakville had the reputation of having the highest millionaires per capita, right? So there was this thing going on about Oakville, and if it was like, if you're from Oakville, you know, you got a silver spoon in your mouth, right?
Exactly.
right.
Exactly.
But like, as I was talking to Grant, he's like, well, that wasn't our kids.
No,
like we
no.
weren't those kids.
no, no.
So
Some of us, I mean, Brian and I mean, we grew up in a little more affluent household, but our parents
That
also,
wasn't my money.
but our parents had a style where they didn't give us anything for free. We earned everything. So we might as well have been just as same as
well,
anyone else.
they probably would have disowned you too if you were a punk, right? Like
Well, they
you're
tried.
pretty much like on your own.
Sheen wasn't
Gotta
allowed
learn
in our
your own
house. Sheen wasn't allowed in our house
Is that
because
right?
he had a mohawk.
Really?
Yes.
But my dad is ultra conservative guy, and when Sheen would show up with his pink mohawk, my dad would say, "That is great. Do that while you're young, because when you're older, you won't be able to get away with that." So, you know, my dad, he was like a Ward Cleaver type
Yeah.
of guy,
Yeah, sure.
and you know, he built us a studio in the basement, a practice spot in the basement.
Well, that's pretty amazing.
And-
Yeah.
That's actually like pretty supportive, right?
Yeah.
I
And
just
so
had a flashback
we
of the
tried,
bus seat.
Oh yeah. Anyways.
No, absolutely. For Brian's parents who allowed them the racket we made for how many hours a week? A night, a week?
Oh,
So
3-4
that became
times a week.
your jam spot?
Oh,
your basement?
yeah.
Well, yeah, at the beginning of the band,
For
Yeah.
years.
yeah, for years.
Yeah.
Yeah, for years.
And then the lights would flick when it was 10 o'clock and it was time to stop.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
But, you know,
Yeah.
because I remember saying to my dad, "Dad, you said if I had got a band together that we could jam in the basement." "Yeah, sure, go ahead." There's me and Gerry down there bashing out our stuff.
How about at Halloween? You had run the mic cord all the way up to the front door because he had to answer the door for
Oh, is that right?
Halloween while we're jamming. And so he's up at the front door
I had all my
singing.
lyrics up there.
And while he's answering the
To
door,
hand out candy.
his dad grabs the microphone and starts singing while we're jamming. We're just busting ourselves laughing.
Yeah.
That must, yeah.
No,
That's
it
hilarious.
was a good spot to jam, and they put up with it for a long time. I
did.
don't know how.
They were great.
Wow.
Yeah.
They had the TV real loud.
Yeah,
So-
they would even have company over. What? Yeah, but, you know, my great aunts would come over or whatnot, and
I
I'd go
never knew
upstairs, and we're downstairs,
Oh, no.
maybe doing drugs and playing hardcore music just for hours and hours on a Sunday. And
Was it insulated at all? Like sound insulation?
Yeah, but it was still loud.
Yeah, sure. I
well,
mean, there's only
it's
so
the
much you can do.
bass. Like, it was insulated pretty well, but once the bass and the drums and just
Yeah.
the energy starts going, the house just kind of
Vibrates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I remember going upstairs, and there's my, 80-year-old great aunts and whatnot. They're like horrified, and my parents are just saying, "So, how's how's your dogs and stuff?" You're talking to them, and
Going
they're
on like trying to
what
normalize
the hell
the
is
situation.
going on downstairs?
Wow.
And the whole house pounded. But when you went downstairs and opened that door,
Oh, my
it was
God.
like razor blades just blasting out of there. So it had to be soundproof, pretty good.
Yeah, it was soundproof pretty good.
Yeah,
But we played really loud.
oh, absolutely.
I assume that might have been the direct action influence.
Yeah.
Punk rock.
But I want to go back to the pseudopunk thing for a minute. I wanted, because the debate often intrigued me, partially because I felt like it was a way of sort of defining the hardcore that was going on at the time, but it also was a way of sort of declaring loyalties with the scene in some ways. Like it sort of brought people in. I wonder what your take on, like, Chris, maybe you could talk to me a bit more about the lyrics of the song Pseudopunk, because it's sort of the closest thing that we have to like a poser theme. Like I would see art, you would see things about columns in different zines about, poser punks, right?
Right.
And in some ways, like, us kids coming from the suburbs, we would also get that declaration against us. That would be sort of the thing that we were sort of called out being, are you really in this scene or not, right? Like, are you here, or is this just something for the weekend kind of thing? You know what I'm saying?
Take the train downtown. And
So was pseudopunk sort of a response to maybe what you would have been being accused of, or was pseudopunk sort of like the saying, are you in this or not? Like, what was the maybe those aren't the only definitions for that song. Can you tell me a bit more about the song, I guess, is what I'm
It's
asking.
probably more of a lashback.
Yeah. I mean, I identified with it and just resented people telling me I couldn't be that because they didn't think I met the standards they set. You had to be poor and you had to sniff glue or something stupid like that. And I thought, well, why couldn't I be a punk and not be those things?
Ah, I see. So in some ways it was, sorry, go ahead,
It
John.
was kind of, as a young band coming from Oakville, we knew we couldn't make a scene in Oakville. We had to either get to Hamilton or Toronto. So we went straight for Toronto and trying to make our place in there as a suburb band. We always felt out of place.
We were.
We always felt like we didn't belong and we weren't accepted.
And we were made to feel that way.
Yeah. That changed over time, but and that's probably why we took so many underbands under us. We didn't want anyone to have to go through that again.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I also wonder if sorry, I've lost my train. No, I wonder like if this idea is what sort of led hardcore to be so open-minded. There was always an open-mindedness I felt to hardcore.
Well, there wasn't.
There was, sure, I agree. Yeah, but there was certainly, like, most people were welcome in some ways.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And you didn't really have to dress the part necessarily.
No,
Right.
no.
But as long as you showed up, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I felt like, and people, kept on seeing you coming.
Yeah.
Like there was this. In that way, I'm saying it, there was a bit more of an open-mindedness to the. hardcore scene.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It was, even for bands that were coming up that didn't really have a place in the hardcore scene. Again, I go to bands like Deja Vu, do Weird Things, Mojo Nixon. They hung around the hardcore scene. E.J. Brule. They hung around the hardcore scene because they were accepted. There was no other scene that would accept them.
Yeah.
And the hardcore scene accepted everything.
Yeah, for sure. Let me ask you about. We started talking a bit about Oakville. Can you tell me about Oakville? What it was like to grow up in Oakville? Because you started telling me a bit about your school, and you started telling me about like the Harveys, but like really, I'm wondering. I grew up in a suburb, and I remember it being very isolating, especially being like the only kid on my block within blocks, listening to like a hardcore record, right? And I was just like, nobody gets this, right? No. I just feel like it was a very lonely experience.
Absolutely.
Until you came downtown for a show, and then all of a sudden it was just like, finally I can live a little bit, That's right. So, but I'm wondering,
out of
can you tell me a bit?
Closet.
Can you tell me a bit about Oakville? Because Oakville has sort of these like people, like I was telling you about the millionaire per capita. Like Oakville has these sort of preconceived notions about it, and I doubt that those are correct, right? Those are like the shiny things that like the mayor wants to tell you about Oakville, right? But and Oakville has these neat things as well. Like they have like the 5 Drive, which we used to always try and go out there in the summer, right? Because it was this great drive-in theater that was
still
within
there?
the vicinity. I know, dusk till dawn.
Yeah,
it's the best time to go.
Yeah.
5 movies. But anyway, enough of the PSA for them. Tell me about Oakville, because the good, bad, and the ugly. I'm sure it's all there's more to Oakville than the millionaires per capita story.
You know what I found about Oakville, and I lived in all the regions of it. They're just for alternative people or people that were into punk rock. Say there were far and few between. Like maybe when you're driving along, you would see, oh my God, look at that alternative person. Wow, that's. but that was very rare. That was very rare. Most of them were long hair.
Until
Yeah.
Stars opened up. That all
Club
ages
Cabell?
Club Cabell, yeah.
What,
All
what, what
ages
is?
nightclub.
What are those places?
There was a place downtown that opened up at Club Cabell. You remember Club Cabell?
yeah.
And it was kind of like a alternative club.
New romantic.
New
mostly
romantic,
Dance
yeah.
clubs.
All ages, no alcohol.
So us being punk rockers, we thought, hey, this is an alternative club. We can listen to Depeche Mode as well. So we'll go up into the club and, we listen to new romantic stuff, and there's all these new rows all over the place. And Don went up, I remember, and said, can you play some Dead Kennedys?
I used to
And-
do that as well.
Play some Dead Kennedys. And so they finally did, and the place just cleared.
Yeah,
It just
yeah,
cleared
yeah.
the place, and we were just standing around going, yeah, this is cool.
Get them to play one of the Bad Brains reggae songs.
Yeah.
But play the next one after it. And the dance floor would just clear.
Clear,
It was
yeah.
amazing.
Sure, yeah.
Just like you'd put poison gas into the room. It was hysterical.
But again, by
Oh, get over
by that place
yourselves.
opening up, it you didn't realize how many of these goths were out in the city, and they
Yeah.
all come out
Yeah.
and they get all dressed up and their war paint and.
But
Yeah.
was there some other more serious punk though? Like Grant talked about a band called Wave the Flag, and I've also seen flyers for a band called Section 8. I think they
Section
were all,
8.
and maybe were Zero Option from also.
Zero option.
Well, I never saw
So-
them.
No.
Were they before your time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you get to see any of them play?
Section 8, yes.
Did you
and I
know-
went to see Section
Oh, right, in Burlington.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I downloaded some of
Yeah,
that
yeah.
stuff today.
Yeah, that's true.
And I've got the cassette, the Section 8 cassette.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So they put out a tape.
Yeah.
Who did they go on to be like some people in? I think some
I
of the
don't
members.
know. I
Do you know
don't
anything about their?
Oh, yeah.
No.
Who
There's
was
a band like from Guelph or something that
that? Jer.
King Cobb Steely.
King Cup Steely.
Yeah.
No.
Great
Yeah.
band.
That was
I
them.
love that band.
I believe
You
there were
love
some
that.
members that went on.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Do you know
Yeah.
you know about the show?
Kevin Byrne, I'm game to do a written interview.
Ah!
Ken Wakely from POC said they realized they were in a bar together. They've been friends for years, lived in Guelph, now live in Guelph.
Oh, for God's
They
sake.
finally connected. So I've got Kevin from King Cobb Steely telling me.
All
You
right.
should just put on your mic and talk into the mic so we can actually.
I love that band.
Yeah, yeah, we've always liked King Cobb Steely.
I
Yeah,
didn't
yeah.
know the connection though. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they
Wow.
have punk roots, right?
Yeah.
So that's what that might
That's part of
help
what-
explain why you like.
But this is what's great about your project is it's
Sure, it's
fitting all the pieces together.
Yeah.
Dovetailing it all.
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, I just wondered like if there was some sort of some connection to like an earlier Oakville scene, but it sounds like
No.
there
No.
wasn't. So
No.
can
We
you
were it as far as we knew.
No, there was Negative Gain.
And Negative Gain,
There was
yeah.
State of Mind, remember?
But they were our nemesis for the longest time. We weren't speaking for the member
Oh, I think they
because
were
they were the
angry
other
with us.
band. And
who Negative Gain?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
we were from Gordon E. Purdue High School. They were all boys from White Oaks.
So tell me the difference of that because I don't know what that means.
I'm
Yeah.
not sure I know what it means.
It's just a different side of the track. type
Well,
of
ours
thing.
was a trade school.
Okay.
More
And
or
White
less.
Oaks, what kind of
White
school
Oaks
that?
was a trade school.
No,
It was
you're
just that
thinking
they
of-
were the Oakville band, right? They were the Oakville band. I think they were out before we
Yeah, they were
And
there
then-
before.
Wow.
And then I do believe Don, tried to jam us together.
Yeah, Don pulled it together.
And I think we stole some of their girls, but
Yeah, and that's how we got to know them from visiting the girlfriends at school. And they,
Oh, okay.
oh, you're okay.
but over time, we would party together all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
We were
sure.
Good.
Legendary parties.
Yeah.
And you mentioned a State of Mind.
State of Mind, yeah.
So I've
Have
seen
you-
them on a flyer, and I'm going to show you a flyer for them. But like, maybe we could talk about them now. Like, who were they? Because I've never. I thought, is this just for another State of Mind? Is this like that for that movie that
No, no.
Youth Brigade did?
No, it was just.
Did they take their name from that?
They were
Burlington?
my girlfriend's friends who had a
Right.
punk band.
Yeah.
State of Mind.
Were they around for long?
Not long. They were. They.
Do you know what they sounded like?
They sound like
They didn't
punk
put in-
rock. They sounded like punk rock.
Yeah, it was sort of an early British sound, the
Okay.
70s. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember one of the show that we had them open up for us. They were playing some Sex Pistols stuff.
Yeah, that's right.
And the singer said, "Fuck, we're playing the Sex Pistols tonight. If you don't like it, fuck off." Right? But there were some punk rockers, and there was like, "Fucking yeah, fucking play
The
that
old
shit."
guys
I was
like that, yeah.
all right.
Yeah.
But they were punk rock. We were hardcore. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's right.
almost different generations.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
feels like.
Yeah.
Okay, let me ask you about your first show that you would have seen, a local show. What would have been your first show that you would have seen locally?
Direct action.
Yeah.
At the
And-
turning point.
At
I
the
think.
turning point with APB, maybe.
I was looking for the poster, if I have it,
APB was awesome too.
I love them.
Yeah,
That-
which became No Mind, right?
Yeah.
some of them. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
the drummer.
The drummer. Okay.
The drum, yeah. So it was Andy, Paul, and Buzz, right? So Andy
Yeah.
went on to be in Nothing in Particular. Buzz went into Direct Action
Yeah.
in the later rendition,
right.
and Paul went on to drum for No Mind.
Okay.
And yeah, there's a connection to that too. But tell me about APB, because there's not too many people who know them. I love them. I thought they were fantastic, but like I'm trying to get people to describe their sound a bit.
I can't remember anything about AP.
They were from Scarborough. I know that. We've talked about their connection. Yeah, I know. It seems weird that they're from Scarborough because we just connect them to Toronto, right?
Yeah.
Now, was Buzz playing guitar for them, or?
But, yeah.
Okay.
Uh,
Then he would have the flying V
Yeah,
up
I
there?
seem to recall like
Yeah.
APB was similar sound to us. It was like fast and heavy and
I don't
punk rock.
remember.
Yeah.
They were for
They
sure.
were good for sure.
Yeah.
And a
They're good band.
three-piece.
Yeah, three-piece.
Yeah.
But that was it was good. They were talented. It's just for some reason they didn't live
Well,
long.
they just split
Well,
off.
I think what wound up happening is Direct Action pulled Buzz away, right? And then like it sort of disintegrated, and they both went on to everyone sort of just went into other bands. So I think it wasn't a conscious thing to break up.
Evolution.
Yeah, it just happened.
Yeah, that was
Um,
great. The first gig, Direct Action, APB, I believe, and the place was packed. It was great. That was my first hardcore show downtown.
So
Yeah.
what's it like to go to the Turning Point? Because
Well, it's gone now.
I know, but I mean, it was also my first outing to a show was watching BFG with the 10,000 Mohicans, Screaming Mohicans, and
Yeah.
and there's a few other bands, but and I remember like BFG doing a cover of Meow Mix at the time,
Yeah,
which is
sounds
fantastic,
like-
and
yeah.
I just I wound up having to leave the show because we stared too long at some skinheads.
Yeah.
So some of these things you're all shaking, you're going, yeah.
Been there,
Like,
done that.
Those skinheads.
I can only tell these stories to you guys because no one else gets what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But the Turning Point, please tell me about that place. Try and describe it to me and like what your thoughts and like because
Going up the stairs.
The stairs are certainly those stairs were fucking.
As a bass player, I hated those stairs.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, carrying your amp up that must have been a nightmare.
Well, the amp was easiest. The cabinets.
The
So
cabs,
playing
yeah.
there, when we played there just shortly after, it's a different vibe when you.
So you guys got to play the Turning Point.
Yeah, we said,
Direct Action.
Direct Action wouldn't. Yeah, we played with Direct Action. That's right. But then when we headlined on
Our own show.
2 shows in a row,
It was
that
like a
was
Wednesday.
Boxing Day.
Yeah, on a Tuesday.
and yeah. So going up there, there's no PA system, so we'd have to bring our PA system, and the they wouldn't turn on the heat. It was freezing in there. We'd
Oh,
have
wow.
our coats on.
I'll play.
Yeah, and of course, our first shows, 2 shows were there, and we had those skinheads
Yeah.
there, and
Did something happen?
yeah, something did happen.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they took over our door and told us they were going to run it for us.
yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they offered to run it for us. And we probably made $12 collectively. And some of them were our friends that were coming. But after one of the shows, those skinheads left, went out back to Sheen's VW Rabbit, picked it up, flipped it over, and dragged it halfway across the parking lot. So when we came
Holy
out
fuck.
to...
Yep.
So, yeah, here's your free show. Thanks for running the door for us. And
And that was the summer of 1984.
And here's an
because-
extra fuck
no,
you.
that was winter.
Waiting for you after the show.
Well,
Yeah.
I remember standing out
That didn't
front.
stop us though.
In '84, there was a book to be published, A Day in the Life of Canada. And photographers all over Canada went around that day and took a picture.
Oh.
And it was published into a book. And I remember
There's
we
a
were
there's a
photographed.
photographer at your show.
We were standing on the street out front of the Turning Point when this particular photographer came back
Yeah.
by and asked to take our picture
Yeah.
for the book. I don't think it ever made it into the book, but
Oh, wow.
we could probably find out what date that
That's
was.
also a weird thing, eh?
Yeah, yeah. I remember the old guy who ran the place.
So his name was Joe?
Was it Joe? I
Yeah,
think so.
yeah.
Joe and Anna.
He,
Yeah.
any night you want to play, you can play. He
Yeah.
didn't give a shit. And there'd be the god-awfulest racket going on stage. There was
So did you put on...
Some Toronto bands out to
Yeah.
Oakville.
And do you think that had anything, like, did like some kids from Oakville sort of start getting into the hardcore scene because of that? Or
I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Do you think there might have been something there?
It was
Probably.
But it wasn't a recurring thing then.
No, it was generally unsuccessful, but a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
That was the first time we saw the stretch marks. I
Was
think.
it?
I think so.
It wasn't this.
No, I think it was that one. I think
We
No.
wouldn't have said, "Hey guys, let's headline in Oakville."
No, it was Don's thing. That was through World War II. I've got that poster. It's in there because it's produced by Reuben Kincade Productions and World War II, which is an Army surplus shop,
Ah.
just down the street from the hall.
Okay.
So that would be 85.
Okay. Getting back to this show, though, this
one?
February 2nd, I wanted to ask you about ATB because you sort of mentioned them in
ATB,
brief.
yeah. They were
Tell me about them.
one of the bands that we kind of corralled to come on down.
How?
thinking
How
of
did we
Tim.
meet them?
Yeah,
It
Tim was
must
the,
have been Don.
Tim was the singer, Tim Freeland.
Tim,
so-
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, wasn't it ATB when you and I went up to that show a couple of years ago?
Back brains or back pains.
Back Pain. And they have this alter ego band called Back Pain.
Okay.
And I'd love to see them because apparently they do spot on Bad Brains
Oh, yeah?
covers. And they opened with the riff from Fearless Vampire Killers. I went, I know what that is. And then they just stopped. And I went, oh shit, I wanted to hear the rest of that. And it sounded bang on.
Yeah.
And because I knew it was them, I went through my collection and found one of these posters with them and us on it and photocopied it for him
Yeah.
and presented it to him at the end of the show. You know, do you remember this? No way, because he hadn't kept any of that stuff. And in the meantime, you'd gone out for a cigarette as they were loading up their equipment and came back, and Gerry said, they're all freaked out because we're here. The guys from Hyper here. I thought, what?
It was like- they were glad they didn't know beforehand.
Is this
that it wasn't-
ATB? Or
Yeah.
is this ATB you're talking about?
Yeah, well, which guys?
Guys from ATB.
Yeah.
So how did you sort of come to
don't
play
know.
together? Because
Don't remember.
Meaford is a small town from up north. It's like got an army, like some kind of military museum.
I'm thinking
CIUT.
maybe they came to the Sudden Impact show in Newmarket or something like
Yeah,
that.
they must
got in
have
touch
been
with
thinking.
Don. It would have been through Don.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Okay.
We blame everything on Don.
Was there